Well, this is a great little camp here. Stopped here last night. Beautiful feed for the camels. There's all that prickle bush and beautiful acacia. This is nice open country. Makes for the perfect camel camp. Now, even though there's a few stones around, just when you kick the surface, you've got all this beautiful powdered sand underneath, which the camels love for a roll in the night. So, anyway, we're about 55 k's from Ashburton Down Station. The station crew come past yesterday. They've offered us the yards for a couple of days and a bit of hay for the camels. So that'll be good for a little treat, just for a change for them. Rightio. Now, as I said, it's a good camel camp. We're ready to go this morning. Got a bore down the road a little bit. We'll pull up and give them a drink. It's been a couple of days since they've had a drink, but they're not too phased. Even when we did give them a drink the other night, hardly touched it. So obviously getting enough moisture out of the plants, and this is what happens during the winter with camels. They don't need to drink much. But anyway, I just want to show you a quick what we're looking at here for a nice camp, and this is what we'll be searching for later today. So this is basically the tree we're after. You can see this beautiful acacia bush here and the prickles on the ground. Now, even though these prickles, there's no life in them at the moment, they're pretty barren, dry, very sharp with the hands. You'll always get those little needles in your hands, but the camels love it, okay? And this bush here, this is what they love too. This is another sharp bush and it's full of needles, but this acacia here is great for them to eat. The sharper the bush, the more the camels love it. There you go, good girl. Okay, so that's what we're basically looking for. The other thing is too, you can see the dirt and the dust under here. It's nice and soft. Camel will work its way on the ground, roll over, give itself a kick and stir all this dust up, and it's good for them, especially in the fly season. Anyway, you can see a day off for Miss Black's really worked. You've got that nice big belly going on over there. So this is what we're basically looking for. Come on, girl. You've had enough breakfast this morning. Walk up. You're right, big fella. Eh? Not so bad up there. We gave him a bit of saltbush up there the other day, so we should enjoy it. You can see a little bit wary of it. He prefers to be out there with his mates. But like I said, his foot's still a little bit sore, so there's no point in pushing him, especially when we can use this. Okay? You get to travel around, eh? Like the Pope. Now this is his bad foot over here. A little bit swollen the other day. The swelling's going right down. So it's getting a lot better there. You can see he's just holding off it for now. So as I said, there's no point in continuing to walk him on the stones, especially when we've got a trailer there we can use. And it's also a good part of his training there. But he's getting a lot better, but we don't want to aggravate it, because if we do aggravate it, it could be a very long time before that foot heals. Okay, so hopefully within a week, that foot's going to get better. We've got an opportunity to pull up and give him a bit of rest. So we're going to use that time rather than just keep pushing on. Now when you're on these big treks and things like this, sometimes it's a bit unavoidable. Things do happen with your animals, but you need to be able to get onto it pretty quick. We've got some good medicine stuff there, so when he sits down, we can see there's a little crack in the pad there. We're able to fill that up with some nice cream, put some spray on it to keep the flies out. But he'll be right. He's a big tough old fella, this one. Now, I've had it before where I was on a trek. I was by myself. I was way out in the western deserts and a camel got a stake in his foot. This can happen after bushfires when you get those stumps hanging out. Sometimes it's very tricky to avoid these situations. So I had to roll the camel, get the stake out of his foot. Lucky in that situation, I had water and plenty of feed for my camels, so I had the opportunity to stop and rest. Okay, if you don't, you're stuck out here and you've got absolutely no food for your animals, no water, your camel goes lame, you may have to let him go and hoping that he'll follow and come back and get him later. Okay, so we're pretty lucky at the moment. We've got some good places to pull him up, and like I said, we've got a trailer to put him on. So we're going to use this and just see how he goes. He'll be right. It's not too bad, and it is getting better. That's it, big fella. Walk him up. Walk him up, big boss. Come on. Well, just got a little bit of tension there. Let him feel it. Hello, Mr. Red. Hey, you want your turn on the trailer too, do you? Come on, big boss. You got him. We just got to get his big bum in there now. Come on, big boss. A little bit more. Walk up, mate. Walk up. There he goes. And when he starts to move, it's the release of the pressure. You keep the pressure on all the time, they stress out. Best way to get them to learn it, put the pressure on. As soon as they start to do it, release. Now you talk about rewarding your camel with a treat. The best treat is that release. There you go. Another step, release. Hey, what's that big thing staring at you, big fella? Good boy. And just having that little bit of time with him. Now, that hasn't been too long, and it's just a matter of putting these ropes up. The other day he was stepping off the side of the trailer. Okay, he's learning he can get away with a few things, so you're just trying to avoid those things. Okay, a little bit of pressure. Walk up, big fella. Walk up, big fella. Come on. Walk him up there, big fella. Yeah, another step, release. Okay, now that's the best thing you can do with him. Bit of release. It's got in here, gives us a chance to pat him all over here, get him used to stuff. Good on you, big fella. You're on there. Hey, what about you, Mr. Red? Hey, what about you? Do you want your turn soon enough? Yeah, you do. You're like a big head scratch, don't you? Once we get him in, Parabadoo's our spot. We want to pull up there for a week. We've got a few things to do. Want to start making a few things so I can put some extra loads on the back, because we don't really have the pack gear. It wasn't really a planned trip, this one. We were just going to get camels and train them, then we decided to take off. So we want to keep building our gear. So it's going to give us a chance to sew up a bit of gear so we can hang some more swag, some water bottles off them, step up the training, and also give the other guys a chance to learn the trailer. There's one advantage to travelling on cattle station country. A nice windmill there straight off the road. Good spot to water them up. They'll probably drink a little bit today, and then we should be, probably 2 days out of the homestead. So this is all they're gonna need. And from here, we've got to pick the first camp, okay, because it's pretty stony. So when it's really stony, I'll go to about, say, 12 o'clock. Then I'll start looking for a camp. When you're in good country, usually about 2 o'clock I'll start looking for a good camp, but they're pretty rare. So we'll probably just go, getting to that stage now after this drink that we'll probably find a camp for them, and then we'll plot in over the next couple of days into the homestead. But anyway, it's good water in this country out here. You can see that beautiful gum line coming up. You can start hearing the birds and the cattle tracks. When you start seeing cattle tracks on the side of the road, when they come in for water, they all funnel into one track. They're heading in there. Look for the toenail mark, heading in the right direction. Once they drink up, they fairly scatter out. So it's mostly the track of them all coming in, and it's a very good sign that you're coming up to a bore. Let's say I've taken the big fella off. We've still got buckets with water in them. He can just have a drink up there on the trailer. He's pretty happy to do that, and that also helps him get used to being on the trailer, get a little bit of a treat there. So hey, big fella. Anyway, and we'll walk the others in for a drink. I love that sound of a windmill. You can also see over here the concrete trough here, made in March 1982. I was only a kid. Not that old history, but anyway, pretty cool. You scull him up, big Mungie. He's such a pig for water. I bet you'd love to jump in there, wouldn't you, little one? Now you can see there, it's like an oasis, one of those classic things that you'd love to see in the middle of a desert. Basically what it is, it's the overflow from the tank. The windmill keeps pumping water out, and a little bit of overflow, it creates these beautiful ponds over here. These are a great place if you're a bird watcher and things like that. You come in, sit around here somewhere, and during the day you get visited by all sorts of amazing birds. And it's hard to find tracks of what animals coming in because the cattle have sort of smashed all it up. So, but if you were just sitting off over the side there, and you're able to sit quietly for a long time, which is pretty rare these days, eventually you're going to see some amazing things come into this water hole here. But anyway, we won't get her in there because she'll roll in the mud. We'll take her over to the trough. Go on, little black. So we got to about 2:30 today. It's been pretty stony and we've come into this little area. Decision time. Okay, we've got trees, we've got sand, but we've still got more hours of daylight ahead of us. But just over beyond me is a ridge. Okay, that's going to suggest we've got more rocky country coming up. So we're going to pick it. This is our spot. Now I always start looking for a spot after lunchtime during the stony country. In better country when it's sandy, you can go till much later, you've got many more choices, but we might get another spot like this for another 10 k's, which could push us through into the dark, so we've chosen this spot. Okay, nice and sand. It's a bit of an old creek bed through here. It's a bit of a flood out area. We've got mulga, and we've also got this acacia, which they love. They've had a belly full of water, good food tonight and some sand, makes for happy camels. Anyway, big boss, you ready to come out? You want to back up a bit? Have a look. Hey, back up there. You coming? Back up, big fella. Come on, big fella. Nice and slowly. Have a look. You see your ramp there? That's the way. Nice and steady, big boss. You got him. And old, big old mate. Hey, there you go. Good on you, big fella. He's starting to really enjoy that trailer. Sitting there with a big smile on his face today. Got his drink in the trailer. Got a bit of hand pick up there to make him happy. Hey? He's got to get his land legs back on after riding it. Hey? It's like riding a big skateboard. Camel skateboard. On you, big fella. Anyway, we'll let him rest up for a bit. Have a little chill. Gives us that time. I always like to leave him in for about an hour just to calm right down and get a bit sleepy. You start unsaddling them straight away and putting them out, blood's still pumping through them, so we'll give them an hour to chill out. Anyway, good spot. You like it, mate? Whoosh. Whoosh. Come on, fancy toes. Whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh there, big fella. These guys are doing really well. Now, we've been on the road for what? Just over a couple of months now. They're really starting to get it. And before that, they were really only in our hands for about 2 weeks doing a bit of training. So it's been less than 3 months that these guys have been going, and they're doing it really well. So give them a little bit of time, to relax to it. You got to remember, these guys were trapped. It wasn't long before that they were just learning to get their saddles on. And then all of a sudden they're dragged out on this adventure and they've already done well over 800 kilometres. Now this has all happened within 3 months. So you can see they're really getting it. It's a good way to train them on the road. But it also can make them a little bit nervous sometimes, because when you're training them at the yards you get them at, they're used to their home. So they get quite confident, and then later on when you get them out they can get a bit nervous. So we're still just taking our time with them. Even though they're quiet, you can still see that little edge in the eye, which makes them not quite fully domesticated just yet. So that's why we're choosing this big trip. So by the time we get to Broome, these guys will be almost perfect. Aren't you, big fella? Just got to get used to that town next, don't you? Push there, mate. Oh, you're such a master. This bloke here's the greatest cruiser of them all. Okay, bring him over in the morning, he's already sitting himself ready to go. Okay, enjoying the job, aren't you? You can see how much more relaxed he is, just sitting on his side like that. Okay, and he loves a good ear scratch. And he loves a good head rub there, don't you, big fella? Okay. You always tell that, you can see his lips there wobbling a bit. It's a good sign that he's all nice and relaxed. Okay, but yeah, just constantly reminding myself, even though he's nice and relaxed, as I said, haven't been working that long. It was only March that they were pulled out of the wild, and what are we in, the start of June now? So even though we've done a lot of miles with them, they're really getting their job. When we get to Parabadoo, it's time to start fine-tuning a few things on them. They're really getting this walking stuff going, but it's time to up the game a little bit. Time to teach them to take loads, teach them to have someone there sitting in the saddle. It's another good way to do it, just by doing this a little bit with him. He's looking at me now, just getting the idea of what it is, and I'm not being too shy on moving him, like a bit of a camel massage here. So this is a game we want to step up before we move into the second half of the adventure. It's another thing I like to check when I get into camp, especially if you've got big loads on their back. They're taking people on their back. At the moment we've just got saddles, but there's already still a few signs you can get to whether those saddles are fitting right. Now in here you'll start to get matted hair, right? So always checking along my camel here, just to make sure the hair's not too matted and it's sitting nicely on the camel. So he's looking good here. Even every morning when I brush them, when they roll over, I check all along my pads to feel, especially in this prickly country, if you get a tiny little prickle in there and that pad starts moving like this during the day, you're going to get a mark, and eventually he's going to end up with a bit of white hair here. When you start seeing that white hair, it's a sign that that camel's had a rub mark. Now sometimes when you're out here, you know, you've got to be checking those camels and checking those pads all the time on your camels. There's one little rub mark in them could set that camel off and upset him, and that can upset the whole string. And then you can end up with a dangerous team out here. So this is the important thing, in along where the pads are, and especially on the hips. Like at the moment he's fine, but in the morning when I bring him out, or the next day, always just touching along the hips. If you get a little flinch in there, have a look. Could be the tiniest little bit of prickle, a little bit of sand or something in there rubbing. So I always check this spot's where my pads are sitting. Okay, and that makes for a happy camel. It's like a good pair of shoes fitting you. Okay, my shoes have been rubbing me at the moment. Nothing much I can do about them because I can't restuff them or repack them, but I can fix me camel saddles. So I think it's a bit the same. The next morning when you put your shoe on, if it's really hurting you, it's going to be really hard to walk the next day, and that'll be just like a camel. Be nice and relaxed. This bloke's actually loving the journey, aren't you, big fella? Hey, he loves it. Mr. Red. Now it's not only about checking your camels, checking your saddles, checking your pads, checking your girth straps. You want to check everything. Okay, hobble ropes. If there's any little bit of fray in the hobble ropes, they need to be fixed. Halters, to make sure they're not rubbing in onto the camel's nose. That's why we put all those straps over there to get them done. Check your neck ropes, check everything on your camel, okay, your hobbles especially. So if you've got a herd of camels, you've got some cows and you've got a couple of bullocks, been together a while, if one gets off in the night, he may hang around his herd. But working all bulls, if a bull gets off at night, he's gone, okay? Especially in rutting season, you'll go looking for a female. Now one of these get off, they'll probably wander over to Miss Black, and they'll certainly upset her in the night, and she will no doubt give us a bit of a call there at night. But if they break their straps and get off, it's always a constant worry with bulls. There was an old bloke in the old day called Snell. Now he had camels, he used to work them in wagons, he used to work all bulls. Every morning he had to get up, he'd wander over there to find a bull, could be miles away. His next bull might be wandering over there miles away, he might find a couple together. But it used to take him nearly to lunchtime to get all these animals together. Whereas the other teams are working the bullocks, they'd often be found together at night. That's why they used to wear bells in the old days and double hobble them, and that bell could be heard for a long time. But we're not using that, we've got the single tether rope here. Reason for that is, we've got wild camels these days. If our camels wander off and a big herd of wild camels hits them at night, we might not know anything, so we've got to keep them in camp with these days. It's something they didn't have in the old days, was a worry of the wild bull camels. But if they did break off in the night, there's a good chance we can lose our animal. Okay, so you want to make sure all your gear, check everything all the time, especially when you have a break. It's not really a break, it's all about maintaining your gear. Okay? Good for me and good for the camel. Isn't it, big fella? There you go, big fella. Okay. Now this bloke's been pretty cool. He's actually allowing me to take his hobble off standing up. You might notice I've just shortened his neck rope up there. Once again, this bloke's a full-grown bull, okay? He's in season right now, but he's pretty calm. If I was to let that rope be nice and loose, sometimes if you've got the sun on the right angle, you've got your shadows to work with, you can see them under your hat. Here, I don't have them at the moment, so I keep that rope because if he doesn't want to swing around and grab me, this bloke grabs you, he probably never lets you up. But we've been nice and cruisy, and we just try and avoid all these little problems with them, and that way we get a good camel. He doesn't get in trouble, I don't get in trouble, and it just keeps everything running smooth. None of there, big fella. Hey, you're such a cruisy bloke, aren't you? So this is basically all I'm looking for in a camel camp. This bloke, because he's had the sore foot, he gets the sandiest patch to sleep in at night. Even though that leg's looking good, he's totally on that foot now, which is really good signs, okay? Now, it don't look like much, just this tree and that tree. I get enough vitamins out of this, but being able to pull up early allows me the chance. If he does clean it up, I can move him onto other trees. I've got plenty of options up here. So basically, once again, your leg tether for your camel, flick them around there, give them a good go. And just a simple bow line, make sure they're on well. Most of the trees out here are very hard trees, so they're not going to pull them out of the ground. One thing you've got to watch, and you can see in here it's not too bad, but some spots you get under the tree is going to be full of ants. The last thing you want to do is put your camel at a camp that's totally full of ants. There's only a few in here at the moment, and generally tonight it gets pretty cold, so they're not going to harass the camels at all, and this is a pretty good spot. But I always check the ground around, make sure there's not ant holes around here, because once that big animal starts stomping around, the ants will drive him mad. But anyway, he'll enjoy that. We keep the neck ropes on him there. We did here off one of the stations. Plenty of doggers out here shooting out feral animals, but if it's got a halter or a neck rope, it's generally left alone. So that's one site we want to keep. But we always keep our vehicle over towards the roadside, and I usually got a solar light that I hang up at night, just so people are aware that this is a camp. Anyway, that'll keep him happy there. A couple of trees to chew on, and a nice sandy bed for tonight. So that's it, that's our camel camp for the night. Mr. Gray's over there. Always pick the camel that's losing the most amount of weight, he gets the best tree. Okay, or the camel that's working that's hardest. Rightio, so Mr. Gray over there, got that tree. The old fella here's got this one. Miss Black over there, she's got her little tree there. Right over yonder's Mr. Red. Okay, Mr. Red's always the most confident, so I keep him outside of camp. And behind the car over that way is Mr. Mungie. Rightio. Now, I like to pick a camp where I can get them nice and close, because if we do see some wild camels at night, we don't want to be running over there 100 metres, running over there 100 metres trying to sort our animals out. So as I'm travelling along, I'm looking for that group that's pretty close by. They're not too far away. You can see Red over there is probably about 50 metres, and that's how far we're spread tonight. So it's a good camp for camels. They'll enjoy this. They'll probably eat for about an hour, sit down, they'll have a nice little sleep, and they'll be up early for a good feed for breakfast. Rightio, and what about our camp? That's it, a simple swag. Okay, we've got the luckiest people in the world. We get to see all the stars at night, but maybe not tonight. It's fairly cloudy. But at the moment, we've only got that little slit moon, and the stars have been absolutely beautiful. Simple canvas bedroll, mattress in there, and that's it for the night. Not too worried about snakes getting in with me, because the weather's getting cold now. The old snakes are hibernating a bit, so pretty lucky. But anyway, a simple swag, using my lounge chair, and then when I'm going to sleep tonight, I'll unroll it, and that'll be it.